Glad to see you again, Fred. Where you been anyway?
I've been there and back.
Looks like you've been down Legion again.
No,
All
I
right.
was over at the Elks tonight at 6 o'clock. I was there till 7 and I took a walk and I got in around 7:30.
All right, and then we both found out kind of late here that we are going to be on tonight instead of next week.
Yes,
And of course, we've been preempted by the Communist Daily Worker from Madison, Wisconsin. They're going to have their annual show next week in our time slot, and so we're on tonight instead of next Monday night, Fred. It's unfortunate, but that's the way show business is sometimes. You get a last minute notice and you got to be here because the show must go on. So make sure you don't watch next week because we're here right now and we're live. Well, Freddie boy, as usual, boy oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about. You know it? If it ain't one thing out there, it's another.
right.
And
I was at the Elks Lodge tonight for their Flag Day ceremony. That lasted about an hour.
is that today?
Yes, and that's why I got my cap on.
So is today Flag Day?
Oh, yesterday was Flag Day.
All right. Today is Go Fly a Kite Day. On this date in 1752, Benjamin Franklin decided that since there was nothing on TV worth a darn, he'd go outside and play in the rain with his son, and they even took a kite with him. And so every day since 1752, when Ben Franklin put that kite up in the air, this has been considered Kite Day, Fred. So a little bit of history there. But you know,
Yes.
like I said earlier, as usual, boy oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about tonight, Fred. You know, the November elections here in this hot June evening down here at the Kyle Report Studios, and you wouldn't think that the elections are right around the corner, but just a little over 4 months and it's election day again.
Yes.
And from all indications, it's going to be one of the lowest turnouts in probably close to being one of the lowest turnouts in history because of complacency out there with the economy being in good shape and everything. So you want to make sure that you exercise your right to go vote and make sure you vote down any tax increases or any arenas or any other things where they're trying to change our form of government or things of
Yeah.
that nature, Fred. You always have to be vigilant because if you lay down on election day, you might wake up the next day and change. So make sure you go vote. And of course, since this is our live program tonight, and how many live things would you say you've done now, Fred?
I don't know.
I mean, how many of those live tours down here at the studios you think you've done
None.
over the years?
None. I don't give chores.
Well, we was hoping that you'd do another one next for the
Well,
next.
that's good. You get somebody else to do it because I'm not going to be here.
All right. Now, unfortunately, well, thankfully, Common's not here tonight. He's at home crying in his beer, and but he loaned us his head again here. So we have a Common presence on the program. We have
Yeah.
our mascot there, and that's Common's head. And as for all of you common-thinking people out there, you can just look to the Common head for common thoughts. And you know, Freddie boy, boy is it hot in here tonight.
Yes.
And you know, we got a letter here from one of the viewers, and they said they wanted to know how the carp sausage business was doing.
I don't know, so don't ask me because I don't have anything to do with carp.
It says here, dear Fred and Chuck, I was wondering where I could buy some of that good old carp sausage, especially the licorice flavored kind that you talk about on the program.
I don't have it. I don't have anything to do with it. You're the one who talks about. You find it for him.
Well, you know, we're thinking about stocking it down there where we sell Flamin' Pop, down there on the corner of
Yeah, and that place is
Ferry and Menominee.
closed. That place is closed, so you won't get anything there.
We're thinking about stocking it in there, and of course, there's rumors now, since we're going into the strawberry season, that you're coming out with a
I'm not.
strawberry flavored carp sausage
No, I'm not coming
For
out
the-
with anything with carp in it.
for the strawberry season here.
If you want to do it, come out with it, you make it then.
All right, well, there you have it, the word right from Fred. Are you going out of business then, or?
I'm not in business, never have been.
Okay, all right. Well, you know, the carp only run in the spring though, Fred, so
Yeah, that's
it is
good.
kind of a seasonal deal anyway.
Yeah.
All right, Fred, well, what do you got there tonight? What's going on
Well,
out
I
there
got-
in TV land?
I see where Mary Bono cast first pro-abortion vote. Mary Bono, California.
What do you mean?
She voted for a pro-abortion.
She did.
Yeah.
I mean, all that money and stuff and work and hard work everyone did to get her elected, and then she turns around and votes pro-abortion?
Yes.
Huh, it's amazing. What made her do that? You know, while you're reading that, Fred, I guess it probably doesn't say in there, but I hear Bob Dornan got through the primary.
He did.
Was it by a big margin? Wide margin?
I guess so.
Well, Freddie boy, you know, we always want to know what how much money the politicians are spending out there, and we got a little printout here in tonight's paper telling about who's the richest Democrats and the richest Republicans, and information on Wisconsin's congressional delegation, and I guess it'd be our Senate delegation too. Looks like the richest politician in Wisconsin would be Herb Kohl. He's got a net income of about $12 million.
Yeah.
He paid a healthy 2.3 million in federal income taxes last year, and about close to 400,000 in state income taxes. So that his income for 1 year was $12 million, Fred.
Yes.
So it's a pretty healthy sum. And
Yeah.
Russ Feingold, our other senator, his net worth is $35,000. That's not much, you know it. And last year he made $173,000, paid about $34,000 in federal income tax, and about $10,000 in state income tax. Let's see who our richest congressman is from the state. Looks like it's net worth of Jim Sensenbrenner is $9.8 million, and Tom Petrie about $3.7 million, and Scott Klug about $800,000. You know that Dave Obey, you know,
Yeah.
I see where another, I think it was a congressman from California was giving him, transferring money from her campaign to his.
Yeah.
But he had quite a war chest here a couple years ago when he ran. I wonder if he's gotten himself in a little bit of trouble because he's got other Democratic congressmen sending him money. And he has a very, his opponent this year is not expected to win. It looks like Obey's going to win again, so I don't know why they're transferring money from a rich Democrat out in California to Obey's campaign. All right, well, Freddie boy, you know, we always take calls on our live program, and this is our live program for June.
Yes.
And our number is 839-6261, and if you'd like to call in and ask Freddie or I any questions or about anything going on locally, internationally, or on the state level, we're always here to answer your questions. And we're going to take our first question right now. Freddie, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Dennis Rodman joining the New World Order. What do you think about that, huh?
What's the New World Order?
It's wrestling, man. Don't you pay attention to wrestling?
No, I missed that. When did he do that?
I was on last night.
Dad. What?
What did he do? Quit basketball?
Well, now he's wrestling with Hulk Hogan. What do you think about that?
It's a pretty good team there.
I don't know. I think Dennis Rodman's a little queer myself, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's all hype. The guy makes millions of dollars every year, and he's a showman, and he paints his hair a different color for every game and all that. But
Yeah, he's
that's what showmanship's all about, and that's what sells ice cream and popcorn at the events, and that's what gets people to come out to these live events. It's people like
Yeah.
Dennis Rodman, and he's
Yeah,
He's a movie star, and he's a wrestler, and he's a basketball player. And
That's what he thinks he is, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
well, you know, he helped the Bulls win what 3 in a row now.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good, but
And I think he was at Detroit before that, and he helped them win a couple of, at least get into the playoffs. So he helps teams win, and he's good at getting rebounds. I seen him one time live over in St. Paul about a year ago when the Bulls played the Timberwolves over there, and he played a pretty good game that night.
oh yeah.
But I think he's if they lose the team, they lose the group they got right now, they're probably won't have a championship there at Chicago next year, because that's kind of a dynasty they got going there, and hopefully it'll stay around for a couple more years.
Oh yeah, but they don't need no more gays in there, I don't think.
Okay, well, Freddie boy, what do you think about basketball?
Well, that's a pretty good game, I guess. I watched the game last night, and I see that Jordan helped to win it. He scored the last 2 goals that they got.
He's pretty good for an old man, isn't he?
Yes.
I think he scored over half the points of his team
Yeah.
last night. Well, Freddie boy, you know, those are the basketball games and stuff. They're nice to watch. I only heard the last couple minutes of it because I had to work, but it's nice that they won. And Michael Jordan's an excellent player, and he's a good sportsman, and he's an icon and well liked all over the world. He's almost becoming like another Muhammad Ali. The name Michael Jordan's pretty much known worldwide now. So he's set in the history books for the rest of his life and beyond. Well, Freddie boy, look, getting back into politics, we what are you drinking over here? Try some of this one.
Yeah.
Okay, it says here, Garvey fights view that campaign needs money. You know, Garvey about a year ago made a statement that he was going to get thousands of workers, and he was going to get $100 pledges from everywhere. He's raised about, I guess he's got about $250,000 in April he had in his account. But it's just pretty hard to run against Tommy Thompson, Fred.
Yes.
He's the best governor Wisconsin's ever had, and this is his last term running, and he
Yes.
could possibly be a presidential candidate a couple years from now, or vice presidential. Timber and Garvey's he's ran for a statewide office before. You probably remember when he ran.
Yes, I know.
Who did he ran against? Caston one time
Yes.
for U.S. Senate. And so if Garvey's going to get going here, he better get going, because he's getting way behind in the fundraising. But he says he's only taking contributions of $100 or less. And in today's political climate, where it takes money to purchase expensive radio and TV ads, he better set his sights a little bit higher there and start taking a few thousands here and there if he wants to get anywhere.
I don't think so.
Are you going to vote for him this time?
Nope.
All right.
Gonna vote for our governor.
Okay. Yeah, Tommy's been a pretty good governor. There's one area that he's still got a little work to do, and that's on cutting taxes.
Right.
But he's done some. He's bitten the bullet here a couple times in the last few months here with the partial birth abortion,
Yes.
signing that into law, and then turning right around and signing into law vouchers for private and religious schools. The communists and atheists are just having fits out there, Fred. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Some of them are almost thinking about taking up arms. Of course, they're the ones that are working to get the right to keep the right to keep and bear arms away from us. But they're really up in arms, Freddie.
Yes.
And I had a news article here recently, an editorial in the Leader Telegram, not an editorial, but a letter to the editor from the local head of the local Planned Parenthood, or actually
Yes.
the public outreach coordinator of Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin, Eau Claire. And the starting of her
It's on the phone.
the start of her article is Political Agenda. She writes, on April 28th, Governor Tommy Thompson sign legislation that will allow our state government to play doctor and take away medical options that are best for women. And that's all the farther I read because I got to thinking about that. And just about every abortion clinic in the country doesn't have a doctor anywhere near their facility.
Oh, they don't.
Those abortions are performed by nurses and in some cases not even nurses. And so I would say these abortion clinics are trying to play doctor without having
Yes.
doctors on the premises. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, Chuck, this is Buck from western Wisconsin.
Oh, it's a long time no see, no hear from you. Where you been?
Well, I try to get in, but that common man's always getting the jump on me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's something, ain't he?
Yeah.
We had to ban him from the show. He got carried away last week.
Yeah, he gets a little wound up sometimes.
He's been banned from the Cow Report for a lifetime.
Well, that's okay. Well, how's Fred doing?
I'm doing okay, thank you.
Okay. What's your read on the upcoming elections here, the off year? The Conservatives going to take over? If there's anything left to be considered a conservative.
Well, they're moving along, but I don't know if they're gonna make it or not. In Nebraska, they passed the Lambert resolution, which is for against the what's that the partial birth abortion.
Yeah.
And South Carolina, the chairman has, and that's they also passed that resolution.
Who do you think's going to be running against Alger and for the millennium?
Well, it's going to be George Bush Jr. down in Texas, and we got
How about McCain from Arizona?
Steve Forbes, and I don't think McCain's got enough juice there to get it. Bush has got a family name, and he's from a big state. I don't think McCain has enough pull to. He'd be kind of like another Bob Dornan. He might be in there. He'd be one of those second-tier candidates. He wouldn't make it into the first tier.
What about Tommy Thompson as far as VP?
Yep, that could be a good combination there. Bush and Thompson, or some people are saying Thompson Bush.
Yeah, I think probably Bush Thompson would be a better ticket.
I think Tommy would feel honored to be the vice president.
Who's Alger going to pick?
Looks like he's going to go with Barbara Feinstein out of California.
Yikes.
She's got very popular liberal views, or popular with the liberals, but she's a very far to the left liberal Democratic senator. She was thinking about running for governor of California, but she pulled back. I guess she had some private talks with Gore, and it looks like she could very well be tapped for the vice presidential because of a few things. Not only does she represent the left center of the party, but she also is female, and she also comes from the most populous state. So they're weighing a lot of different reasons why, and they put it all together and came up with Barbara Feinstein.
How about Jean Kirkpatrick for a conservative candidate?
There, once again, I don't think she's got enough name recognition and enough pull there.
Yeah. Well, you ever read that stuff about these people that have been associated with the president, where like 30 of them ended up dead from Arkansas days?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
What's your read on that Ron Brown deal? What's going on there?
Well, there's a few things are coming to light now that Ron Brown was involved with this transfer of technology to the Chinese, to where they can actually make their warheads more accurate. But that's coming out now, what, a year and a half after his death, and I guess.
You heard about that bullet hole in his skull, didn't you?
Yeah, that's a theory, but it does have a perfectly round hole. The thing would be is who would actually get on the plane and fly with him and shoot him in the back of the head and then crash the plane and die with him, unless maybe he survived the plane wreck.
Yeah.
And somebody marched up there into the rugged terrain and came upon him still alive and shot him in the head. But
Yeah, I'd take one Reagan with Alzheimer's over 6 Bubbas that are stone cold sober.
yeah, we've been kind of, the conservative movement's kind of been coasting since the Reagan days. You know, Bush was, a lot of people kind of held their nose and voted for Bush, and then they held their nose and closed their eyes and plugged their ears when they voted for Dole, hoping that things would get better. But finally, Bush and Dole are both gone and retired now, and maybe the party will come back to its senses.
Well, J.C. Watts might be a good guy.
Yeah, he's a potential. He's going to be potential for the future. I don't think he's ready yet, but he will be on the short list a few years from now.
I think he'd be on the short list for VP.
It could very well be a Dole Bush or a Bush Dole ticket this time, but not.
Bush Dole.
Yeah, the other Dole,
Oh.
his wife.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Elizabeth.
Well, how about Alan Keyes? What's your read on him?
Well, Alan ran last time. Fred and I drove down to Iowa and saw him at the Iowa caucuses down there, and he gives rousing speeches, but once again, he's kind of in that second tier and never did break out of it. The only one that almost broke out of it was Buchanan, and then he ran out of money, and that seems to be the problem with the conservative Christian political movement is they're long on talk, and they're great. They have great ideas and great views, and they represent the right views and the proper views and the right virtues in this country. But unfortunately, they don't give much money, and it takes money to grease the wheels in these political campaigns. And the Christian conservative movement has been lax in that area.
What about one bomber, Bob Burnham?
He's not gonna get anywhere. He'll be lucky if he gets his own district back.
Well, do you think they're going to get rid of Clinton, or do you think his presidency's been damaged with this Monica Lewinsky or whatever?
I think that was just a side trail. There were so
How
many.
about the Chinese deal?
There were so many other major.
Right.
There were so many other major things besides this Monica Lewinsky thing that if he goes down because of that, that's too bad. Because
Well, the Chinese deal is a big one, isn't it, Fred?
Yes, that's right.
Fred's been studying.
He gave the Long Beach Naval Base to the Chinese, and they have aimed 13 missiles at our cities. That's treason.
High treason.
Yes.
Well, here's I got a little article here. Anger as China's forces use U.S. satellites. This comes out of Washington, from the Washington Times. Republicans branded President Clinton's foreign policy disastrous yesterday after classified reports. Let's get back on the air here, boys. After classified reports.
Try to black you out?
Yeah, that's that communist conspiracy in there. The intelligence reports compiled, let's see, Clinton's foreign policy was declared disastrous yesterday after classified reports revealed that the White House had known for a long time that China was employing U.S. satellite technology for military purposes. The intelligence reports compiled by the Pentagon last year showed that for 2 years the Chinese Army had relied on American satellites sold for civilian purposes to transmit messages to military garrisons in far-flung regions of the country, in the country of China. The United States has barred American companies from selling military equipment to Beijing since the 1989 pro-democracy protests in Tiananmen Square, where thousands of students were massacred. I guess, by the way, Clinton will be standing in that square here in a few days when he goes over there.
Well, how come he's going to do that? That's not very smart.
Well, yesterday's revelations provided the most powerful evidence so far that the administration knew the Chinese Army was taking advantage of its technology transfers. They added fuel to Republican criticisms of Mr. Clinton less than 2 weeks before his state visit to Beijing. So it's pretty serious stuff there, because now their warheads are very accurate. They want to blow up Chicago. Now they can actually reach Chicago without landing in a field maybe 500 miles away. So we can thank Clinton and Ron Brown for the transfer of that technology. And I guess Clinton was also selling seats on his junkets around the world for $40,000, $50,000, $25,000 donations to the Democratic National Committee. And so Ron Brown was doing a lot of shenanigans there, and it could possibly be why he was rubbed out.
Well, what about Alger with calling from the White House for campaign contributions?
Well, that seems to be kind of one of those lesser evils there. I think what's more of a problem is when we have the White House scooping up over 1,000 FBI files, gleaning
Right.
gleaning information out of those, mostly on Republicans, and then turning around and using that information to blackmail our political figures to toe the line there and to not make waves. That's what's scary there, Freddie boy. All right, Fred. Well, as usual, Freddie boy, we're taking the phone calls. And on this date in history, in 1956, 16-year-old John Lennon of the music group, the Quarrymen, met 14-year-old Paul McCartney and invited him to join the group. In a few years, the group became the Beatles. So actually, the group was together from 1956 to 1970, Fred. A lot of people think it got together in about 62 or 61 in Germany, but they were together way back in 56, Fred. Way back in the old rock and roll days of Elvis. They were coming along right when Elvis was. And another thing happened on this date, Freddie boy, was Joe Louis knocked out Lee Savold in a closed-circuit TV fight seen by fight fans in movie theaters in 6 cities. Now that sounds like closed circuit and pay-per-view and stuff. Well, this was back in 1951. So there you have it, Fred. Closed circuit, and there's nothing new. And you know, Freddie boy, back in 1987 on this date, Michael Spinks beat heavyweight Jerry Cooney in round 5 in their heavyweight boxing match in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Spinks was shorter and lighter than Cooney, but a lot better. All right, Freddie boy, well, what do you got there now?
Well, Whitman of New Jersey, and that's the governor of New Jersey, who had the effort to stop the pro-life prank from the Republican Party platform. The theme of her new RLC is to raise money for the campaign of common conservatives. Of course, Whitman and
Okay, go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yes, I was wondering what that goofy thing is hanging from your hat.
From Fred's?
Oh, your hat.
Oh, that's just one of those ornaments.
Does that make you look like Minnie Pearl?
I don't know. Never thought of it that way.
All right, thanks.
I think see, you know, public access here now, they've come up with this thing now where you can have commercials as long as public access gets their cut. They're kind of like the mafia. They want their cut.
yeah,
And so I guess we're advertising Ford pickup trucks tonight, Fred.
you
They're
are.
twin I-beam strong.
Yeah,
So don't forget to go out and buy your Ford trucks and send 10% of what you pay for it to Fred and I here at Public Access, and we'll give 15% to the mafia here at Public Access. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I got a question, man. Why do you got that Ford thing around your neck, or around your head, not your neck?
Well, I couldn't get it over my hat tonight.
Well, why didn't you take your hat off and put it on?
I never thought of that. So what's up tonight? Where are you at out there? Are you calling from Chicago or what? It sounds like you're calling from another city.
No, right here in town.
Oh, how do you like this weather?
It's stuff.
Yeah, what are you going to do this summer?
I don't know.
Are you working?
Not really, no.
Well, there's plenty of jobs out there.
Yeah. What's up with your bow tie?
What do you mean?
Yeah, it's big and ugly.
The thing cost $19.95 from the Flavin Company.
You got ripped off.
And if you want one, you can order one right there at the Flavin Company, $19.95. And of course, they brought one of our flagship product is Flavin Pop. It's right back there on the old Cow Report set. Fred, have you sang the Flavin Pop song lately?
no, I have not, and I wouldn't sing it because I think it's a travesty.
A travesty?
Yeah,
Huh.
You
Well,
can't buy it anywhere, so what are you advertising it for?
you can get it down here at the corner of Ferry and
That
Menominee.
place gone out of business already.
You're just jealous because we won't sell your carp sausage down there.
I don't, you can sell it, but I
Listen,
don't have any carp
I
sausage.
heard all kinds of rumors about the health department coming in there and checking on that carp sausage.
That's not true.
They said there was green stuff in there. And you just threw
That's
it.
not true.
You just ground it right up with the rest of it, and threw some licorice in there, and
not true.
that's why they call it licorice carp sausage.
That's not true.
Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Chuck, what do you think about the pill Viagra?
Well, Fred, what do you think about the pill Viagra?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't given it any thought.
I guess it's pretty expensive, $8 to $10 a piece. And I seen where a guy, the head of one of the brokerage firms on Wall Street, donated $1 million to a hospital in New York for people that were too poor to buy Viagra. That he would anyone that couldn't afford to buy it, he's put $1 million into a fund for them to be able to
Yes.
get their share of it because of the expense. But it's like anything else. It's like at one time memory from computers was sky high. Now it's down to you can buy 32 megs of memory now for about $29-$39 out of Best Buy. And it used to be for 32 megs of memory, it used to be $200-$300. So the price of that stuff will come down, and then it'll be one time. Eventually, it'll probably be an over-the-counter drug. But right now, the company that made it is trying to recoup the money that they've got into research and development, and so eventually the price of that will come down. But on the other hand, I guess it's been quite a smash hit amongst the elderly, and in some cases it's even caused some serious problems with some crimes being committed and people being accused of rape and stuff because of their newfound potency. So is that a good enough answer? All right, Fred. Well, you know, the other day I was listening to the radio and I heard where the arena is being revived here in town again.
It is?
This time the head of the Eau Claire, what do you call it? Not the Chamber of Commerce, but the
Visitors Bureau.
yeah, Visitors Bureau or whatever that, maybe the Chamber of Commerce is probably all in one, has decided to put together a report and turn it over to the county board. And it looks like we could possibly see this thing raise its ugly head again and come to another vote in a referendum. But they're going to have to compete with the library who wants to put a big addition on.
Yes.
And also the school systems the school system is looking at another referendum. Plus we got our major problems with the roads in this area, in the city. And so be prepared, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are taxpayers out there, you suckers who dared to go for the brass ring and go to become to take part in the American dream, and you got suckered into buying a piece of property, and now you're paying through the nose every year in taxes, and it keeps going up and up and up to where you're paying more now in taxes in a lot of cases than you paid for your monthly mortgage payment now that you've paid off the property and you're making tax payments every year and you're being forced out of your home. The American dream now for a lot of people in Wisconsin is the American nightmare. So anyway, beware, your taxes are going to go up again, especially if they put 3 more referendums on the ballots here in the next year or two. But I don't know why they keep bringing up the arena issue. Fred, we solved that months ago right here when we turned Banbury Place into the Eau Claire Arena. We got the parking downstairs. We showed you the parking lot down there, and I don't know, we might even be able to give you a quick shot of the parking lot camera there if Roy and company out there is able to do that. But there's plenty of parking down there in the Banbury Place Eau Claire Arena,
Yes.
right downstairs here. We've solved that problem. We saved the city $54 million. We set aside a spot for Fred to sell his carp sausage.
I don't sell
Okay.
any carp sausage. I never had anything to
We've
do
got
with
one
it.
segment.
You're the one guy who talks about it. I don't have any.
We got a section set aside just to sell Flavin' Pop. We got the best we've got the corner on all of the on selling all the food and stuff here at the arena, and now they're starting to talk about building another arena to compete against us. But we'll see if they can give us a shot of the arena parking lot down there. In the meantime, Roy, did you say there was a, if that's common, you tell him he's banned from life. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yes. What do you think about the marijuana issue?
Okay, Fred, what do you think about the marijuana issue?
I don't. Anybody who smokes it must have something wrong with their thinking.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about the so-called marijuana issue. Back in the 60s, my generation was being experimented on by the drug gurus in this country and the pushers of drugs, and all these drugs all of a sudden hit our culture back in the 60s, the LSD, the magic mushrooms, the
Yes.
marijuana, the cocaine, the amphetamines, the tranquilizers, the uppers, downers, the pot, the hashish, all that stuff just flooded into this country back in the middle 60s, Fred, and just overtook a whole generation of young people. Thousands of people lost their lives. Thousands more ended up in mental institutes. Countless others tried to commit suicide. It was a very poorly done experiment on the youth of this country, and we're still feeling the repercussions of that here almost 35 years later.
It's increasing the use of drugs in our country.
Well, yes, we were the guinea pigs back in the 60s from everything from LSD to marijuana. But getting back to the marijuana back then, Freddie boy, the marijuana was so weak that you would have to smoke several cigarettes of it to even get a buzz. Today, one or two puffs and you almost go into convulsions. The stuff is, they've learned how to make it so much more potent and powerful and more of the THC content in it. So anyway, marijuana is something you don't want to use when you're driving. Supposedly it has some medicinal purposes as far as glaucoma, easing the pain of some cancer patients. Hemp has always been around as far as making rope and used for fabrics and for other things, making shoes and all that. That's been around for several hundred years or even thousands of years. Marijuana has been a problem for thousands of years, probably, Fred, but it's just, our country is just not to the point where we can take another illegal drug that has serious side effects and problems and make it illegal. We've already got two very nasty legal drugs out there, alcohol and tobacco, that we're trying to deal with. In one case, tobacco is causing close to 400,000 deaths a year, and alcohol, no telling, probably another 100,000 deaths there yet, Fred. I said there's probably 30,000 people a year die on the roads from alcohol, plus all the other alcohol-related deaths. Somebody has a bigger figure out there on alcohol. They might want to call in. I'm sure it is a large number, though, and so we just can't afford to be legalizing drugs right and left here. The failed experiments of the 60s have carried over into the 70s, 80s, and 90s, caused probably hundreds of thousands of deaths, destructions of families, thousands upon thousands of people in prisons, and mental illness, and just all kinds of problems there. It doesn't need to be legalized, even though it's one of the more minor hallucinogenics and doesn't cause as many problems as some of the other drugs like heroin or cocaine. It still has its problems and shouldn't be legalized. What do you think, Fred?
I agree with you.
All right, go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, do you think a lot of homosexuals use drugs? Do you think that may explain their behavior? And do you guys know from firsthand experience?
Okay, Fred, what do you think? You think that drugs cause homosexuality?
I don't know.
It probably lowers a person's inhibitions, just like alcohol does, but I don't know how much that plays into that. I don't know. Why are all these homosexual questions coming up tonight, Fred?
I don't know.
Is it because of what Trent Lott said today?
I don't know.
All right, Fred. Well, tonight's program is brought to you by Flavin Pop.
It is?
And for those of you out there who need to get...
Pay your 10% in there on this advertisement.
10%?
Right?
I know. Flavin Pop paid for these studios here that you give tours in.
I don't give any tours.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, how could you call marijuana hallucinogen?
Well, maybe you just haven't smoked any of the stuff that's stronger. Some of that stuff's pretty potent out there. All right, well, Freddie boy, has anyone sang the Flavin Pop jingle lately?
Anybody who sings it is crazy.
All right, well, let's sing it then. Flavin Pop, Flavin Pop. Don't drink slop, drink Flavin Pop, the thinking man's drink, at finer funeral homes everywhere. Of course, Fred, they used to sell it at gas stations, but too many people were putting it in the car because it was getting something like 70, 80 miles to a gallon off of it.
They got 9 or 10 miles to a gallon.
Oh, so you finally admit they were using it in their cars.
I didn't admit anything.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Chuck, what's your opinion on the nuclear deterrent system? And then I'll have a follow-up question to that.
The nuclear deterrent system.
Like Russia from, for instance, during the Cold War, it was mutually assured destruction. Do you think that's a good system to keep the peace?
Well, it kept the peace for 50 years. It's called might makes right.
All right.
We kept the Russians in their place for
Sure.
50-some years, but now that the Russian empire crumbled a little bit, some of them nuclear weapons have slipped out into other countries, and probably Iran and Iraq both have them now.
Well, do you think that is needed in today's world, current system?
Well, we're stuck with them whether we like it or not.
Okay, I challenge you to a debate. You pick the date on air, and I will beat you on that issue.
Fred, is that one of your buddies?
No.
It kept the peace for 50 years, Fred.
Yes.
If we hadn't had the nuclear bomb when we did, right now we could be cross-legged on the floor eating rice instead of eating steaks.
Right.
Of course, nowadays we eat rice and steaks. But what I'm saying is, if we hadn't used the bomb on Japan when we did,
Yes.
we were losing thousands. Do you remember some of them battles there at the end of World War II, when the Marines and the Army had to go into those islands and root out the Japanese? They fought to the last man, didn't they?
Yes.
Took flamethrowers, and I mean, it was vicious fighting.
Right.
We lost tens of thousands of men there in the last few months of the war. They were trying to get them out of some of them islands.
Right.
Very fierce fighting there, Fred.
Yes.
And they just wouldn't give up. They fought till they were dead.
Yes.
They took a lot of Americans down with them. And this was going to go on from island to island to island all the way down to Tokyo. And the decision was made, we're going to drop the bomb, and they wouldn't back off. The first bomb was dropped, and they kept fighting. They had to drop a second one. And finally it brought them to their knees, and it brought World War II to an end. And that's one time that unfortunately the United States and a Democratic president, Democrat, Harry Truman, gave the order and dropped that bomb. But it brought World War II to an end and saved possibly hundreds of thousands of American lives that we would have had to fight inch per inch all the way to Tokyo to end that war. They were not going to give up as long as their emperor was alive. They considered him a living god.
Yeah.
And he kept telling them to fight on to the death.
Yes.
So they would hop in their airplanes and they would fly up and they would dive bomb into the destroyers and aircraft carriers trying to destroy our planes and our boats and ships. And it was very fierce fighting there after we'd dispatched of Germany and ended that theater of war. Then we switched to the Pacific, and a lot of good Americans lost their lives over there, ending that thing. But then we came into the Cold War.
Yes.
We had some traitors and communists in this country that funneled the nuclear weapons to the Russians, and pretty soon, within a couple of years, they had the bomb. And it was a stalemate then all the way up to about 1991 and 90, when Russia started deteriorating a little bit and their empire collapsed a little bit, but all those bombs are still there. So now we still have about 1/5, 1/6 of the world is still controlled by communism, in China. China has their nuclear weapons, and we need that deterrence right now. This is no
Yeah.
time to be dismantling all of our nuclear weapons
Right.
and then being at the mercy of a rogue nation like Iran, Iraq, Cuba, North
Yes.
Korea, Libya,
Yes.
China, some of the other nutcases out there.
Iran.
We have to have that deterrence. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
The dropping of the bomb on Japan, well, first of all, my question would be, are you familiar with the just war tradition? It's the tradition that governs war that has since the beginning of civilization, pretty much. It's a set of, basically, ethics. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yeah, whatever. Well, what's your point?
Well, the just war tradition says that it's an unjust act of war if you use a weapon that doesn't target out soldiers, i.e. a weapon that would kill civilians. Now, the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima killed millions and millions, hundreds of, 250,000 civilians. It's indiscriminate. I mean, why would we use it? Why is that fair? Why is that ethical?
Why did we use it? Because we were losing
I understand, politically.
thousands of Americans that were fighting the Japanese way before you were born. Maybe your relatives, your father, your grandfather were over there. My father was in the Pacific over there fighting these guys, and they would not give up. Their emperor was a living god.
Would you expect the Americans not to give up if we were on the wrong? I mean, isn't
Well,
that the same?
if we hadn't dropped the bomb then, we would have had to fight all the way to Tokyo and probably lost another couple 100,000 Americans.
Right.
It was done, we dropped it, and that's it, period. You can't rewrite history. It was 1945, we did it, it's over with,
Yes.
and if we have to do it to survive again, we'll probably do it again. It was a matter of survival. We were in a world war that probably, some people estimate, cost between 50 and 70 million lives worldwide. The bombs took about maybe 100,000 on the first bomb, maybe 50, 75,000 on the second bomb. And it ended the war. The second bomb ended the war. So young men like Fred wouldn't have been fed into that slaughterhouse over there.
Yeah.
Okay, Freddie boy, you know something?
North Carolina.
Buford Jimmy Ray Culpepper of Alabama hadn't laughed in 22 years since the death of his beloved bloodhound, Jasper. Did you know that? An inventor in Zhejiang, China, has come up with a new method of birth control for men. Well, we can't talk about that on the air.
Wow.
Here's one here, Fred. Maybe we can talk about this one. Police in Korea have charged Kim Young-si with murder for killing a fellow church elder by throwing a Bible at his head. So he hit him in the head with a Bible and killed him, Fred. All right, what do you got there from Hawaii?
They added 2 pro-life planks to the Republican Party platform. With the support and encouragement of the Republican caucus, the platform committee included support for parental consent for abortion to be formed on a minor and a ban on partial birth abortions. South Carolina and Georgia also passed the Lambert's partial birth abortion bill. South Dakota, they're on drugs.
Huh.
They passed that the druggists shouldn't have to fill it if they didn't want to.
Okay, Fred, here's a story coming out of New York City, your old stomping grounds. Do you remember the Direct Casket Company from New York City?
A what?
Direct Casket
No.
Company. Well, they're selling coffins in retail stores now for 50 to 75% less than what the funeral parlors charge.
Yes.
And maybe we ought to start doing that with Flavin Pop. Instead of selling it in the funeral parlors, maybe we ought to sell it in the retail stores.
Yeah.
We could probably sell 50, 75% less, because right now it's $10 a bottle at the funeral homes. Maybe we could charge $5 a bottle in the retail stores, but sell twice as many bottles, or 3 times as many.
You're not going to sell any because you don't have any to sell.
All right, caller, you're on the air. It must be Common there. I told you, Common is banned from this show for life.
Uh-huh.
And not the show's life, his life.
Yeah.
Tony Roberts of Grant Pass, Oregon, is recovering this week after doctors at Portland University Hospital removed an arrow from his brain. According to Roberts, he let a friend try and shoot a beer can off his head. The arrow entered Roberts' right eye, traveled through his brain, and came out the back of his skull. The accident occurred during an initiation ceremony into a club called Mountain Men Anonymous. So you'll probably want to stay away from that group, Fred. All right there, Roy. Well, our old rusty, trusty sidekick out there. Well, in here is Fred, but out there it's Roy Rogers Hoff, the engineering scientist who keeps everything running here and tries to keep us on the air.
Kansas City GOP chairman opposes pro-life, pro-abortion governor.
Yeah, it's a mess in that Republican Party, Fred, but it's getting that way in the Democratic Party, too. I guess Casey, remember him from Pennsylvania, was it?
Yeah.
Governor Casey, pro-life, and the Democrats wouldn't let him speak at the National Convention. I guess he's got a son that's running now for Congress as pro-life Democrat.
Good.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Chuck, how are you?
All right.
Okay. Could you let me fully just state my case, and then you can respond as much as you want? You know, due respect to each other. I'll let you talk. You let me talk. I won't take a lot of time.
Uh-huh.
Well, actually, we only have about 30 more seconds.
Okay, I'll make it quick. All right. In a fully rational, honorable, respectful manner, I would like to debate you for public, education on the issue of deterrence, and I honestly would, just for the fact of educating the public on both sides. It's freedom of speech. You supposedly like the American Constitution. I mean, I don't see what would be wrong with that. What do you think? You tell me the time, and I'll show up.
I don't even know what we're supposed to be arguing here.
Nuclear deterrence. The system, good or bad. I honestly would like to debate you for the sake of the public's knowledge. What do you say?
So your position is that we should get rid of all nuclear weapons, or what?
Yeah. And that nuclear deterrence is an inherently genocidal system.
Huh. Well,
it ensures the extinction of most of the population on Earth, as long as the U.S. relies on a deterrent system. I would challenge you to a debate on that, because earlier on the show you said that we have to have it in this day and age, otherwise we won't survive.
That's right. There's too many rogue nations out there that have it also.
Would you be willing to debate that?
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, you can call Roy right after the show here and give him your phone number and everything, and we'll either set up a debate with me or with Fred, because Fred has 50 years of knowledge in that arena.
No.
Okay, Freddie boy. Did you see this big magazine? I think I brought that up last week, Fred, but it's a magazine here that Marlboro puts out. The thing is quite a slick magazine here, and they send it free to my house there, and it lets me know to keep an eye on these guys, Marlboro. You know, Freddie boy, you know what happened on this date? Guess whose birthday it was today? Mario Cuomo, your buddy from New York.
Yeah.
He was born a few years after you, 1932. It's Waylon Jennings' birthday today. He's born in 1937.
Yes.
Who else? Babe Dahlgren, an old baseball player, 1912. You remember him? Ellsworth Dahlgren?
No.
Babe Dahlgren, baseball? No. How about Dusty Baker? How about Jim Varney, Vern, born 1949 on this date? Jim Belushi, John Belushi's brother. I guess the curse of Saturday Night Live is still in force, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
Just about, I think there's about 7 or 8 comedians that appeared on that program regularly have met untimely deaths now. Everyone from John Belushi to Gilda Radner to the latest 2 that just died this year. And also Helen Hunt's birthday is today. You probably saw her in that recent movie with Jack Nicholson. Well, Freddie boy,
yes.
If it ain't one thing, it's another out there. And we got time here for one more shorty from you there.
Reggie White of the Green Bay Packers appeared with Gary Bear, who is spoke at Harvard, and he gave a real good talk.
How you doing on the phones out there, Roy? Oh, we got another one. This is the last call of the night. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
First of all, you're right on nuclear weapons. We do need them. But what is your position on Area 51? Like the alien.
Okay, Area 51 is supposedly a place out there in Nevada, not too far from Las Vegas, somewhere out in the desert out there that supposedly is where flying saucers and weird-looking unidentified flying objects have been seen. And basically that's what they are. They're unidentified because they're top secret. They're testing. That's a testing ground for the military and for the black ops or the black operations budget that we have in this country, which is 70, 80 billion, maybe $100 billion. That's off the books that the CIA and National Security Council and probably a half a dozen, maybe a dozen different agencies use this money to test and create various kinds of equipment and weapons, and unidentified flying objects are tested. And one of the areas is Area 51. All this stuff about aliens and stuff is all a bunch of baloney. Those planes and saucers and stuff were created right here on Earth by scientists from places like Russia and Germany and the United States. The reason all this started right after World War II is because in the waning days of World War II, the Germans were creating some pretty sophisticated rocketry and very highly sophisticated and planes, and they even created a jet plane right at the end of the war there that they were starting to use. Unfortunately for us, they didn't have enough time to make thousands of them, but they did have a jet plane come into being there at the end of the war. And so we took some of those German scientists, and Russia got a lot of them too, and they came over and helped us create NASA and other space programs, and helped us create a lot of, and experimented with a lot of odd-shaped planes and flying saucers and things of that nature. And out of that came things like the stealth technology and various different kinds of radar systems and yes, unidentified flying objects. And there will always be unidentified flying objects as long as we have people that are thinking into the future and have brains and are creating new technologies. They need to test them, and sometimes they just don't want their competition to get a hold of what they're testing, and so they set up private areas like Area 51 so they can test in private, and they keep the public at bay and keep the airspace above their blocks so nobody can fly over and see what's going on. So there you have it. There's no such things as unidentified from other, there is such things as unidentified flying objects, but they're right here from this world. So once again, the Old Cow Report has been brought to you by me, your host Chuck Lee, and my rusty, trusty sidekick Fred the Truth Stavard, and the director is Roy Rogers Hall Sr. And once again, we want to say